the
Ch-
background. Looks good.
change the background from the community college where I also teach a little bit
Oh, okay.
to this. What I should do is I should have a bar background, right?
Yeah, we need something. I need a golf course. You need a bar. It'd probably be a good fitting.
Yeah, or a golf course.
Yeah.
So it's now working. We can tell that.
I do see live stream. Okay.
All right, so that's taken care of, and we now know that it is working on YouTube. So good. All right, so so as I said, what we're going to do is we're going to record this. We'll let you tell your story. It's a really easy interview. It's not a hostile ambush interview. I've done those. They're lots of fun, especially with politicians. But
I
no,
bet.
I've been on both sides of those, by the way, because I'm a recovering politician also. So I have been
Um,
ambushed. I
I
hate
see.
them on that side. I love them on my journalistic side.
You've done it
Uh,
all.
and frankly, I think it's fair for journalists to experience being on the other
Right.
side of what they do. So
Right.
I think that's fair.
Absolutely.
So give me 1 second. We're gonna do a short introduction, and we'll get on our way. Okay. So, hi everybody. I'm Joel Whitaker. I'm the editor of Kane's Beverage News Daily, and we are happy to have with us today Turner Lewis, who is behind the brand Four Craft Canned Cocktails, which is a new spirits brand that's out there. And we're going to let him tell his story. So, welcome, Turner, first of all, and tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? How'd you get into the alcohol beverage business? And what led you? Well, tell us your background first. Where are you from? Where did you go to school?
Okay.
Your prior employment, if you had work outside the alcohol beverage business, that's in particular of interest sometimes. And let's go from there.
Sure. Well, thanks, Joel. Thanks for having me on today. I look forward to talking with you. Yeah, I'm a native of Virginia, so I grew up in a small town in the northern neck on the Chesapeake Bay. So grew up from a long line of watermen and oystermen, crabbers, those type things, fishermen, my grandfather and father both. But then my father actually went back to medical school later in life and became kind of the country doctor down there. So when I grew up, we had an exam room in our home. I would help him stitch up patients in our house that came in from the fish boats. So I have a background in the medical world, and that's kind of what led me to being a full-time physician now. I attended Wake Forest University for undergraduate, came to Richmond for medical school in the late 90s, and then completed a residency in radiology. So I'm a full-time practicing radiologist here in Richmond, Virginia. So not the traditional route to become an alcohol
No, it's
cocktailier,
not.
but enter the pandemic and combining my passions of golf and a good cocktail kind of came to the front while I was not practicing medicine much. Everything kind of slowed down with my day job. So that's kind of what led me to this.
Okay, so the pandemic drove you to drink, so to speak, except on the making side as versus just the drinking side.
Yeah, probably a little bit of both, but you know, over the years, having taken some golf trips with some friends, especially one in particular from medical school, and we would always drink a particular cocktail on the golf course called a transfusion. And it's kind of a refreshing summer beverage. It's ginger ale, a little bit of grape juice, a little bit of lime and vodka. And so it's pretty popular on the golf course and at golf clubs. But when you're out there walking and you're carrying your bag and trying to balance maybe a snack or whatever, carrying a plastic cup or two of a cocktail was a little bit frustrating. And I always wondered, why is that not in a can? You can buy everything else prepackaged, ready to go, but there was no real golf branded cocktail back. This was 2020, I think, when we were on this vacation right before the pandemic started. So enter COVID, and a few sleepless nights later, I decided, I wonder how you can create this, and that's led me down the rabbit hole.
And that's what got you started. So talk about the process. Let's walk through the steps that you took. You had the inspiration, the light came on in your head after a tough day of golfing, and
Right.
I would think 18 holes of walking with a bag on your back could be tough. But
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear you're a real man that you don't, get in a little cart to scoot around with on. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like you're way more connected to the game when you're walking, and I can at least feel sort of healthy when I get the step count up a little bit. So I've always enjoyed walking more, but yeah, a couple sleepless nights later of trying to figure out, was there anything really out there at the time? And I'd never seen a canned transfusion or even really a golf branded cocktail. And so to me, it just seemed like a no-brainer. When you're playing golf and you're out on the middle of the course, there's a beverage cart that'll kind of circle the course, and you might see them once or twice. So if you want a beer or a non-alcoholic drink or a snack, they're kind of serving you those things out on the course, but it always slows down the golf, right? You're stopped, you're sitting there waiting for something. If they're making drinks, it takes forever. And so that plus the kind of consistency of what you're getting, a transfusion never tasted the same twice out there. It was either too much grape juice or not enough ginger ale or whatever, too much vodka. And so it just really led me to that idea of a consistent, authentic cocktail that would replace that current process. Um, I kind of knew in my mind that recipe just from the places I've played golf, and so I just did some research on how to make a cocktail and then how do you sell it. So the one thing that ignorance was bliss about is just how complex the alcohol business is, and I was too stubborn to really heed any warnings from anyone else that it's really tough. You're gonna struggle. There's a lot of big players out there, and I just was kind of just barreled through it and decided I was going to make it happen.
so that was quite an awakening, I'm sure. Probably was more complex than medical school in some respects for you.
Absolutely. The compliance and regulation is maybe even stricter than the medical world, with licensing and reporting and what you can and cannot do. And every state is different, as I've learned. So, when I started, I was starting with just this one drink. It's a 12-ounce aluminum can with this pre-mixed, ready-to-drink transfusion. And most of the things I wanted selfishly were to use real spirits. So I wasn't interested in using a malt-based product, which again, in hindsight, if you sell a malt-based product, you can sell it anywhere easily. Spirit-based, very strict in certain states. And so I'm fortunate in Virginia that that decision still let me sell in grocery stores and chains and not just liquor stores, not just the ABC stores here in Virginia. But when I first decided to, once I figured out the recipe and how to get a producer, a co-packer to manufacture it, then it was, well, how do I distribute it? No distributor would even answer my emails. I'd send it to all the big ones, the little ones here in Virginia, and even through connections and whatnot. I just couldn't get any attention because I had one SKU, no alcohol experience, no real business experience. So I said, well, I'll just get licensed myself. So I got my wholesalers and wine importers license from Virginia. I got my federal permit, got my garage behind our house certified as a storage site with the Virginia ABC. So I said, okay, now I can sell this myself at least. First production run made like 5 pallets of transfusions up in Wisconsin. And I'd already talked to some local golf clubs and some little markets I had connections to, and they were all very interested in something new and local, but they wanted it for Memorial Day weekend. Summer was about to start. And this is like 4 days before Memorial Day weekend that the production finally happens. So I started looking into freight, knew nothing about how to ship product like that. It was going to cost an arm and a leg and take a week or two. And so I said, well, a flight to Green Bay is $200. So I flew to Green Bay, rented a 26-foot box truck, loaded up these 5 pallets at the co-packer and drove it the next 2 days back by myself here to Virginia, unloaded it in my garage, and then that kind of started the distribution process.
Now that's quite a story. That's what I have not heard before. So that's that's really fascinating. So you actually bought the airplane ticket, flew out there, and drove it back yourself. That beats Jim Cook. Jim Cook likes to talk about how he started Boston Beer, Sam Adams, by
Right.
you know going around taking cases of beer or
Yes.
whatever out of his trunk and going into bars and saying, "Please buy my product." But you've topped him. I think
Well,
that's a new one. I have
it
not heard
made
that
for a good
before.
story. I was hoping, that would at least lend to the passion of what it takes to get something like this done. I think, learning about small business and then the alcohol world, you face so many challenges and so many obstacles just getting something off the ground that you have to be pretty willing to do a lot of things you wouldn't otherwise even consider like that. But in the end, we were able to get the product here. We started selling it in May of 2021 is when we launched the brand. My wife would help drive product. We got into Total Wine pretty early. There were about 17 stores in Virginia, and they would each order like 3 cases. So that was like $115 worth of, revenue for us, but we would pile them in the car. I'd drive up to Northern Virginia, fight traffic on my day off from the hospital, go to 10 different Total Wines, each getting 3 cases. I'd go through the front door with a shopping cart with 3 cases piled in there with my invoice, and I'd go get in line behind the big distributors that were delivering full pallets of drinks. And it was so humbling, so humbling to start that way. But I was excited to see it on the shelf. I really, that was one of my goals when I started this was to take an idea from a round of golf out on the course where you get the idea for something and then to seeing it on a shelf. And that was really for me a big accomplishment.
Sure, and that would make a tremendous difference too. Um, which came first for you, the lawyer or the co-packer?
That's a great question. I did have a beverage attorney hired pretty early on. My wife is an attorney. She calls herself a recovered attorney. She's kind of managing our 3 children right now, but she told me she's like, when it comes to this alcohol business, if you really want to do it, you need to get an attorney early and often, and make sure whatever you're doing gets a thumbs up from the compliance standpoints. Registering the formulas and the labels with the TTB. All these things require quite a bit of legal advice, and then once I got in with distributors, having those distribution agreements that they would send and have an attorney read it because I wouldn't even know the terms. This is such a foreign concept to me that I really had to lean on the experts. And that's one of those things that's well worth what I think is still a high hourly rate, but it's worth it to have that kind of confidence that you're doing things the right way.
Right. A lot. I suspect it's a lot cheaper than doing it the wrong way and having to correct it. So,
Yeah, that's what I would agree with that.
you know
Ounce of prevention.
that that sounds like the doctor and you're talking. The next thing I'm going to hear is an apple a day keeps the doctor away, but you don't want to say that, I suspect,
No, no, absolutely.
because
So
our medical system has yet to go to the point where doctors get paid for keeping you well as versus taking care of you once you get sick. So,
it's an interesting system for sure.
yeah, that's China, by the way, or at least in some parts of China, that's their practice.
Is that right?
Amazingly enough.
Wow.
So can I ask which law firm you used initially?
It's a Lehrman beverage,
Lehrman? I know. Yeah.
yeah, out of Northern Virginia. So they've been great to work with. I have, my particular attorney is always very quick to reply and kind of give me, very sensible advice and reviewing those contracts and whatnot. So we've got a pretty good relationship at this point.
Yeah. The great advantage of a good attorney is that they do have a lot of experience and they can, you know, give you sensible advice and just they can really help your business operation in
Yeah,
that respect. They may not be great marketers or whatever, but they can certainly do what you need to have done, especially in a startup mode.
that's right.
So, did they connect you? Did they refer you to the co-packer? Or did you have to go out and find that yourself?
I found that myself. I initially just through some research found a co-packer in Baltimore actually.
Uh-huh.
And so I was planning to work with them, but they were just busy and weren't looking at taking on small batch runs. I was looking at doing like 1,000 or 2,000 gallon run initially just to get a proof of concept more than anything. And they actually referred me to this shop in Wisconsin, who I'm still working with to this day. But I have used both of them over the course of the almost 3 years we've been in
Yeah.
business.
Well, that's good, and it's helpful when if somebody can't do something for you, they can refer you to somebody else. So that's a real
Yes.
plus.
And
Now, I
much
have
like
to
this
ask you,
for
is that
me.
your product in the can there, or is that coffee?
No, it's ice water. I'm starting a week of night shifts tonight at 10 o'clock. So it's just water, just hydrating, and then nice long nap this afternoon. So
Okay. Night shifts, huh?
yeah, still full time at the hospital, so I do a lot of overnight shifts because it helps me build up time off. And then next week, when I'm doing these night shifts, I have a lot of afternoon meetings with distributors or golf courses. And so I can do a lot of business stuff in the afternoons while I work at night and then sleep in
and
the
then head
morning.
over.
So,
Yeah, got
yeah.
it. I would think that night shifts must mean you probably handle a lot of emergency room cases.
It's mostly emergency room work. I go in at 10. Could we cover probably 15 emergency centers overnight? It all filters into my one workstation. So I sit in a dark room in the basement of the main hospital, and things filter into my work list on my view boxes for, until 7:30 in the morning. Then somebody comes in and takes over, and I take off. So it's like you're always on the wall, one way or the other.
Oh, that's right. You don't have to actually take the pictures. You have technicians to do that.
Exactly. I just sit down and look at pictures all night, which can be a little bit mind numbing, and you certainly drink a lot of coffee to stay focused because it's busy. It's really busy now. So
Yeah, with 15 stations sending you stuff, I bet it is. Yeah,
yeah,
quite busy, in fact.
it is.
So, well, that's good. Well, back to the alcohol side, which is what we
Yeah,
want to talk about here. We don't want to
sure.
take people who might become alcohol entrepreneurs and discourage them and have them run off to become radiologists instead. Although I think we have a shortage of radiologists too. So, you know,
Absolutely. Yeah,
uh,
we're very understaffed in our group right now. So it's a national problem for sure.
yeah. So you found this co-packer up in Eau Claire. Uh,
Mhm.
can you give us the name?
I use Artie's Premium Beverage up in Wisconsin, and then I've worked with Wild Pack, who's in Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay,
And
good.
there are quite a few out there now. I think that's become a very popular business. There's a new one in Virginia Beach that I'm looking at maybe doing some small runs with. And there's just so many RTDs, as you know, and other canned cocktails, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic. And some of the things I've learned is for my product, I want it to be tunnel pasteurized. I don't want preservatives keeping it on the shelf. I want to pasteurize it. And that gives us a 2-year shelf stability without refrigeration. That's not always easy to find. Those inline pasteurizer, that equipment, I think, is a little more specialized. So that weeds out some of the potential co-packers. So, um, and I've just really enjoyed working with Artie's. They've been really, really great to work with.
But that idea of pasteurization is something I'm sure it's done all the time, but it's something I've not heard people talk about before. Um, and it seems to me to be a really good idea. It would increase your shelf life, I would think, monumentally.
I think so too, and it eliminates the need to have preservatives in the liquid. So, instead of relying on something in the can to keep it safe and stable, pasteurize it without adding anything to the liquid that could affect flavor or your health benefit, whatever that might be. So for me, that was just one of the kind of mandatory items I was looking for in a contract manufacturer.
Right. And pasteurization is just it's a heating process, isn't it?
That's exactly right. Just like you think about when they discovered that for milk, right? To eliminate the bacteria within the milk, they would pasteurize it by heating it. I think there's some cold pasteurization. Now, there's probably some other techniques, but the traditional way is by a heat method.
Yeah, good. So having found your co-packer, you're set to go, but you still have the marketing issue. I mean, yes, you can provide the transportation. You can fly out to Eau Claire and truck
Yeah,
it back and do it that enough, and the Teamsters will call you up and say, "Hey, you know, um,
right.
right?"
Yeah.
But you have the bigger problem of how do you start marketing? So how do you start marketing?
Yeah, I mean that's one thing I'm still trying to figure out because marketing usually means money. It's hard to do that without spending. And the beauty in what I'm doing is, this being a golf focused product, um, again, it's fairly unique. There are a lot of companies out there that make an alcoholic, whether it's a beer or a cocktail, and they're trying to force it into the golf space, whereas our branding just hits you in the face with golf from the moment you see the logo to when you see the can art. Everything is golf. And so we use social media. I really rely heavily on Instagram and Instagram advertising, um, whether it's me, whenever I get to play golf, which is not as much as I'd like, but try to take some pictures while I'm out there. I've used some other photographers. I've worked with a great local golfer here in Richmond who goes by the nickname of Fat Perez. He's a He doesn't like the name influencer, but that's essentially what these personalities are. He's an amazing amateur golfer who has now quit his accounting job and is playing golf full time for these YouTube videos with Bob Does Sports, which is kind of a large golf brand out there. And so he lived 5 minutes from me, so we kind of connected early on, and I was fortunate to have him kind of represent the brand out there. So those are the kind of creative ways we have to use marketing to our advantage because I don't have a big budget for traditional billboard or video or even radio type advertising. And
Right.
so that's kind of how I've had some success is just through social media more than anything.
Well, and social media does work. I mean, I don't think as you get bigger, you can rely upon it exclusively, but
Right.
it certainly gives you a targeted focus, and you are a targeted product at least at the moment. So,
Right.
you
No,
know,
it's definitely, I think, again, our business is sort of suited to that just because there's so much happening in the golf world with the PGA Tour and Live and the big events, the Masters, the US Open. So we can really target our social content toward those events, and we can do some targeted advertising. Now we're launching into our 10th state this spring. So when we launch a new state, we do targeted ads to those areas and certain golf courses and whatnot.
so you brought up the 10th state, which gets us into my next area, which is distribution. So what states are you in to start with?
Yeah, so we're obviously in Virginia. That was our first state to finally get connected to a distributor. That was in April of 2022. We signed with Republic National. We kind of got what I thought was a big break to get in with a big distributor here.
That was
Yeah.
a break. I'm quite frankly surprised you got it. How'd you pull that one off?
Just the right connection at the right time. There's always amazing stories like this. There's a golf course up in Northern Virginia called Creighton Farms, and I just happened to make a phone call to them, got connected to someone, and she was nice enough to know a friend in RNDC, and she said, "Oh, do you want distribution?" I'm like, "I'd love to not drive to Northern Virginia ever again." Yes. And it's amazing, what people are willing to do to help you. And that's one of the take home points in this business is you find how many people are willing to lend you a hand. They've learned from their mistakes or how hard things are. And I hope I can pay that forward at some point if I have the opportunity, because it does take a lot of help. I'm a one man show. I mean, I do this all myself, other than obviously my wife helps with some of the behind the scenes operations, but from invoicing, setting up production runs, social media, uh, compliance, all these things. I'm just kind of doing it on my own. And so when you get help from someone, it means a tremendous amount.
Sure. Well, and I mean, the good thing is that thanks to computers and all that, it's a little bit easier now than it would have been 20, 30 years ago, but not a lot
Absolutely.
easier.
Well, no, but you're right. I think just finding the resources, the co-packers, the ingredient manufacturers, everything's done online now. So, if I were having to do this during the daylight hours, I mean, a lot of this stuff I can do after I get home from work in the night. You can do a lot of these sort of tasks, setting up freight shipments, for instance, like a lot of this stuff you can do just through the internet. And that if I were trying to open a restaurant where I was there all the time, brick and mortar, I couldn't do it. Like I can't do medicine and that. I just happen to have stumbled into a business that I can kind of manage without strict deadlines or being in person a lot of times. So you're right. The technology now allows me to do this and still maintain my career.
Great. So tell us the 10 states you're in again. You started with
Sure.
Virginia, and then we got
Yep.
shocked by the fact that you looked into RNDC,
Yep.
and I'm glad to hear you say it was luck because I was about to say, boy, I've been misled, but no, I haven't been.
Most of this is luck, I will say. So Virginia, we're in Maryland and DC. We're in South Carolina. North Carolina, we're in their special order system. So when golf courses find out about our product and want to order it, they can order it directly through the ABC. The North Carolina law for RTDs is pretty tough. I don't have a distributor in North Carolina, but I ship directly to the North Carolina ABC warehouse, and then they send it to the ABC board. So we actually shipped a pallet today down to the Pinehurst area for some golf courses. So then we go up to let's see, we're in parts of New York. We are in Arkansas, Tennessee. We are launching Michigan and Wisconsin as we speak. So pretty much mid-Atlantic with a slight tilt toward the West and Midwest right now. Obviously, my main goals are getting into the Sun Belt just with the golf season, warmer weather and whatnot. But Florida, Arizona, those have been tough nuts to crack. And so I'm just kind of continuing on this path and kind of following where I can get a share of mine from distributors and see where that takes us.
You know what? And it occurs to me also that you have an advantage I had never thought about before in using co-packers because you talked about three co-packers. You got Eau Claire. So
Hmm.
I'm surprised you have not gotten into Wisconsin before now because short distance away.
Yeah.
You got Baltimore. So,
Hmm.
Maryland, D.C.,
Yeah.
this side of the Potomac, because as you may or may not know, uh, it's an iron curtain, between the two.
Right.
And but you know, Pennsylvania, Jersey, New York, there.
Yeah.
You said you just added somebody in Virginia, or might have somebody in
Right.
Virginia,
Yeah.
so you can south that way.
Yeah.
And that's I mean, that's an advantage. It's
It is.
you
And
become
I
the
think,
Anheuser-Busch of the craft spirits industry, if you will,
well, of
with plants
course,
all over the country.
yeah, and they're co-packers all over. Matter of fact, Wild Pack that's in Baltimore, they have sites in Vegas. They have, I think, California, Texas. So the beauty of these relationships is if new markets open such that, freight costs continue to climb. And so those strategic decisions to go produce in an area that saves you on your shipments can pay off at scale for sure. And
Yeah,
that is a very very flexible kind of part of the business.
right. So you're looking to expand into the Sun Belt, Texas, Arizona, New
Yep,
Mexico.
yep. Anywhere along that southern rim that has nice golf weather more than, Virginia, we usually play almost year round. Wisconsin, Michigan is like a 6 month season. So New York, similar or maybe even less, depending on parts of it. But obviously, Arizona, Florida, Texas, California, like most of these are year-round type
Right,
destinations. And not only that, but they have so many golf courses. People go there on vacation to golf. And usually, when you're golfing on vacation, you're probably having a cocktail or two more than you do during you may not have anything during your regular round at home or whatnot. But when you're traveling and on vacation, I think that really marries nicely to what we're doing, which is trying to combine the social aspect of having a cocktail while you play golf.
right. Good market case there.
Right,
Absolutely.
right.
Are you in Florida? I forget. Did you say you were? Or are you looking to get into Florida?
Looking to get into Florida, but not yet.
How about Georgia and South Carolina?
In South Carolina, also with RNDC, that's a tough market as well, just because of the laws there. The distributor RNDC can't sell directly to golf courses after, I think it's the first 3 months of having a new product. So it all goes through private liquor stores. So they sell to a liquor store. The liquor store then has to sell to a golf course. So there's like this extra middleman. It's like two middlemen in the system, and making those connections is a little tricky for an RTD.
Boy, that must drive up the cost too of the product.
Yeah, I think it cuts down on their margins, right? So the traditional 30% to distributor, 30% to retailer, to to the buyer. I think they're carving those into smaller percentages on their end. So yeah, it's just every state I'm learning is different.
Yeah,
I'm lucky because, as I said, in Virginia we can sell in grocery because it's under 7.5% alcohol. So even though it's spirit based, Virginia views it as wine. So it's taxed like wine. You can sell it like wine. So we're in Trader Joe's, Kroger, Total Wine, places in Virginia that we can't sell in those other states because of the laws. Um, but those are really where we see the volume movement. The golfers try it on the course and they stop at Trader Joe's to grab something for dinner and they pick up a 4 pack on the way home. And that's especially over the cooler months, I've even seen that those markets move because you're still golfers are still out there. They're just not playing as much golf.
sure. What about pricing?
Yeah, so our pricing again state dependent, but it's usually we sell by the 4 pack. So it's four usually around 12 or $13. So kind of similar to a lot of the other things that are out there at that
Sure.
AB. We're 7% ABV on our four vodka-based products, and we have a 5% tequila-based product. So they're all priced the same. They're all sold the same way in 4 packs. But yeah, we've expanded from that initial transfusion, which is still the flagship product. We now have the tequila product, which is ranch water, and that's ubiquitous. Everyone makes one, but ours is golf branded and I think has a little more lime flavor than some out there. We have our version of an Arnold Palmer with vodka. That's called 4T. We have a Bloody Mary. That's kind of the newest flavor, and that's been getting great reviews. We did the PGA show in Orlando in January. My wife and I just exhibited at the Virginia Food and Beverage Show here this week. Everyone loves the Bloody Mary. If you're a Bloody Mary fan, at least they seem to really like it because it's a hard thing to put in a can. We learned it took us about a year to get that concentrate balanced right with the vodka and still have that nice spice mixture and pepper and texture. Um, so I'm excited about the Bloody. That's kind of our latest. Our final drink's called a Southside. It's a kind of a Capone era prohibition cocktail that's kind of like a mojito, mint, lime, soda, traditionally made with gin. We pivoted and made it with vodka because gin can be a little bit polarizing when it comes to a canned drink, and I wanted to be a little bit more kind of take the alcohol out of that play a little bit. So, and that's where we are right now. 5 drinks currently.
Do you do the formulation yourself, or have you not got to the point you have somebody else do it?
Yeah, I mean, I have the recipes in my mind of how I like to make the drink. So I typically, when I'm working with either the co-packer or some of these flavor houses out there that we've utilized to make the formulation and the flavor bases and whatnot, um, typically I'll give them kind of my recipe, some of the stipulations of nothing artificial, no colorings, no preservatives, artificial ingredients, things like that. And then they would ship us some samples, and my wife and I will taste them with some friends and say, oh, this is a little too limey or this Bloody Mary is too spicy. And then we kind of give them feedback. And then eventually we nail in that formula and then it's locked in.
Cool, very good.
Yeah.
So that sounds like a terrific story thus far. Uh, what's next for you? Are you to the you're not yet to the point, I presume, where you feel like you desperately need to add staff?
Not yet. I actually, I'm looking at doing a capital raise. Obviously, I've been doing this myself, and it's a tough cash flow business where pretty much everything that comes in goes right back out to the next production run or whatever profit is there. I will spend on some of the marketing things we talked about. I don't have a sales force, so I usually have to incentivize the distributor sales teams, which is great because that's again a nice kind of in between. Having staff is just, as you probably know, it's an expense, it's a headache, I'm sure, and I'm just not there yet. But obviously, what I want to do is grow this business into a national brand and really become kind of the official canned cocktail of golf. The feedback I get on the product has really gotten.
Good tagline, by the way. If I was you, I would call up your lawyer today and tell him to trademark that, the official canned cocktail of golf. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm serious. Do that.
Well, I certainly have a lot of trademarks, and I usually do those myself, believe it or not. So I've gotten to the point where I'll get an idea and just set it up, trademark it, and I'll then hand it off to him to like he's on the register, so they get the emails and all the junk mail about the companies wanting you to register it abroad and whatnot. But anyway, you're right. It's a great tagline. It's a claim that I'm not yet able to make, but probably worth protecting.
Well, okay, so we have to talk business here for a second. I used to work for the St. Petersburg Times, now known as the Tampa Bay Times.
Okay.
And when I worked for it, and for about 10 years before that, it had under its nameplate, which is that thing on the front page. People call it the masthead. That's not the masthead. The masthead is the thing somewhere inside that has staff listings, the publisher, the editor, those things. The nameplate is the thing on the front page. Right under the nameplate, it said Florida's best newspaper. They put it there when it was not Florida's best newspaper. It was an aspirational statement. So trademark it and use it now.
Okay.
Okay.
That's great. Yeah.
I'm telling you, trust me, and I'll send you my bill for management consulting once you get to the big time.
All
Okay.
righty. I'll remember that.
My kids will need the money when I'm gone, but you know, but
Yeah.
it's like King of Bears,
Yeah.
go for it early and then grow to it.
Right. That's right.
Okay. And now I have to hold this back for a week so you have time to get off and
Yeah,
do
I,
it.
I'll be on the USPTO.gov in 30 seconds after we finish, just seeing what's out there. So
Okay.
great.
But I'm pretty sure it's out there. I mean, that you can do it. And if it is available to you, I'd do it. It's a great tagline.
Thank you. Well, I'll
Okay.
definitely check it out. But
And
the
I'd use it. I really
yeah,
would.
yeah.
Um, Also in the same category is Steve Jobs' famous speech in, you're not a speech guy. So, um, Steve Jobs, the Apple guy, when he introduced the iPhone, they had a tagline that was uh, Apple reinvents the phone, and they
Uh,
use that everywhere.
yeah.
And boy, that took off. It got into to the news stories of the appearing in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and so on. You've got a phrase there, my friend. Use it.
Well, yeah, I think it's a great phrase, and obviously that's the goal is
Yeah,
to become synonymous with, on course golf cocktails, and I think we've got that potential. I mean, the branding is obviously very aligned with it. And with capital to do the marketing piece, maybe to get some help with just the distributor management, again, I freely admit when I'm not the expert in this and I'm learning a lot, but there's certainly advantages to having someone from this industry help run it. Just not there yet.
yep,
So kind of know
yep,
where it needs to go. I know, you obviously see, and I'm sure as you know, with keeping up with the news every day on this, but this acquisitions are happening all the time with big, 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 numbers. And I want to create this and build it into something that is exciting that I can be proud of. I'm already very proud of it, but it's humbling, and I know I'm a David in a sea of Goliaths, and so trying to grow it as sort of a grassroots golf movement is, I think, kind of exciting.
yeah. No, you're doing well so far. Um, Looking for wholesalers, or are you going to stick with R&DC?
Well, I'm with RNDC in two of those 10 states, but every other state's a different one. So, um, obviously, when I first heard from them that they wanted to pick me up, I thought, oh, we've made it. We're in 42 states. We just won the lottery. Then realized, well, every state makes their own decision. This is not a national authorization. So, luckily distributors play golf. And so what I've learned is if I can find the right connection in one of those wholesale houses that's the golfer, it's a no-brainer. And once they try the transfusion or they see it, they're like, where has this been our whole life? Like, we have to have this. And as a matter of fact, I did the National Beer Wholesalers trade show out in Vegas back in October for the first time. And it was amazing, because these are all beer wholesalers, a lot of AB and Miller Coors, and they're trying the drinks, and they're, just the feedback was overwhelming. I think we got maybe five new markets out of that show, and potentially more. I'm still working on a few of them, um, but no, I'm looking to grow. I think it's just I don't want to grow for the sake of growing. Trying to make Virginia our biggest state, and so far it has been mostly because of the grocery availability. But I've just had a really good relationship with the RNDC guys here. They've really looked out for me, and you know, I don't want to have to beg to get in somewhere. I want it to be kind of a partnership so that they're mutually invested in it and want to grow the brand with me. But as I always say, I'm willing to take them golfing, and that usually goes a long way because it's fun to get out there and play golf and have your cocktails in the carts or whatnot. So it's again a natural. I mean, the product sells itself. If you find golfers out there, liquid to lips really applies to this, especially on the golf course.
It sounds like a tough job. It really does. Turner, it sounds very tough. So, you
Well,
know,
I've always said I had three goals in mind when I started this. The first was to actually get a product on the shelf from a napkin sketch. That happened within about a year and a half of the idea. The second was to get to play more golf because I have three children, full-time job. Golf's a four-letter word in my household, but when I started the business, it all of a sudden became, oh, well, you have to go play golf. You've got a network. You've got to go to the PGA show and take that trip, with Fat Perez or whatever to go play because now you're building a brand. So getting to play more golf. And then the third was I'd love to do less nights and weekends and stare at a computer screen for a living. And so the idea is that maybe this business will help me kind of slowly back out of the medical profession, which is a wonderful and noble career, and you know you do feel like you're doing good in the world, but it's also, it's a tough job. It's stressful. It's long hours. It's nights. It's weekends, and all those things. And being outside on a golf course is truly the polar opposite of what I do during the nights. I would say my day job. It's really my night job, but
Right. Yeah, and I would think also that the medical profession to some extent is an age dependent thing. I mean, your eyes go at a certain point and so on, which for somebody reading screens all day might be an issue.
it is. And they always say like sitting in a chair for long periods of time is not exactly a great way to sort of treat yourself and your body and your health. So I think about that too, out walking on a golf course or being outside, being social, being in the sun. I think that has great health benefits.
Yeah,
Not that my brand is a health benefit. I don't mean to advise that, but the golf piece certainly is very different from sitting at a computer desk all day and
right.
staring at a screen.
Yeah, I can testify to that because once COVID hit, uh, I found myself sitting at a computer screen like 12 to 15 hours a day, and it was not good.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm now trying to force myself to go back to my old habits, which is not as easy as I thought it would be.
No. Yeah.
Such is life. Well,
That's-
Bernard, Turner, I think that this has been a really great interview. I think I promised you 30 minutes or so. I think we went longer. That's your fault because you had some really great stuff I'd never heard before. So
I'm a
that's
talker. When I get passionate, I tend to talk faster and more. So I apologize if I got a little long-winded there.
no problem. I'm glad to have had the conversation. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you would like to have us talk about?
I think we've covered it pretty well. Obviously, as we expand, people that are looking for the product can find on our website a store locator. That's the one thing I try to get out is that if you're trying to find us in those states that we distribute, just type in your zip code and you'll see all the locations near you that carry our products. And
And what
anyone,
is your website?
it's forecraftcocktails.com. So for like the golf word, FORE, craftcocktails.com. Same handle for Craft Cocktails on Instagram. We're on LinkedIn. Again, I'm not a social media buff, but now I've been forced to manage all of that. So look forward to connecting.
Well, maybe you start with your first outside hire as a social media person, then, if you want to.
Yeah,
Um,
that's right. Plenty of
yeah,
that. It's just everything costs money. So the more I can do
exactly.
myself, I feel like, my time, I can afford my time. I can't afford a lot of expenses right now. So
True. Besides, it helps to know what all those things are about if you're going to oversee somebody doing them,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Well, it's been great talking to you, and hopefully you'll do really well. I'm looking forward to staying in touch with you. And as you add your distributors and open new states, please keep us informed of that.
Okay.
When you come out with new brands, we'd love to know about that.
All right.
So all that business stuff, we're an open market to you for.
Well, thank you.
Not so much on the taste of qualities of the product because you know
Yeah.
what we do report what people say about their taste qualities, but we always stick in a little thing that says is said to be, or the company says, or something
Right.
like that, because my taste buds are shot. And so I don't
Taste is
want people
very
to think I'm
subjective. I've
sitting
learned
there
that too.
tasting them.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much,
Thank
Turner. It's been great talking to you, and thank you all for being with us. And good luck to Turner. I think he just hinted that he's looking for help down in terms of distributors and perhaps golf courses calling up a distributor and saying, "Hey, we want your product down along the Sun Belt, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico." I think I heard maybe even Louisiana. Not to put words in his mouth, but to put words in his mouth. So,
Florida's not a bad one either.
where are they in Florida? Florida, Florida.
Yeah,
Yes, big state down there.
that's right.
So good luck on all that, and let us know when you get those states, please. So
Thank
thanks
you, John.
everybody, and thanks Turner, and have a great day. Uh,
Thank you.
stand by, Turner. All righty. So That was a great interview. I really like that story, by the way. The one that stopped me there, I have never heard that before. That's fabulous. So
Well, thank
thanks
you.
so much.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your time and your interest and letting it be a an easy session again. I do get talking quickly when I get excited about this. I mean,
Oh,
the passion shows, I think.
it does. And it's easy for me to let people to just get them started and let them go as versus trying to ask questions. I can come up with questions, but
Yeah,
I'm between you and me, I'm better at nasty questions than I am at easy questions. So, you know, if I can
always
get
works
people
out.
just talk, it's so much better. I once did an interview with a wholesaler where I literally had to ask every question, like,
Uh,
where were you born? Los Angeles, California.
yeah.
Where did you go to school?
Hmm.
UCLA. What was your major? Business. Why were you a business major? Because my daddy owned a wholesaler shop. It's just like felt like I was a
Give me
dentist pulling
something here.
teeth.
Yeah.
you know. And I ended the interview. It was just not going to work.
No.
It was painful for him and more painful for me. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Well,
so thanks
that
so
was
much.
good.
Good luck, and
Yeah.
do keep us in mind. And
Okay.
hopefully you'll do really well. I think you got a fabulous thing there, and I think you got two things going for you. One is that tagline, that slogan,
You like that
and I'm
one?
serious,
Yeah.
trademark it.
Okay.
And secondly, I think your use of co-packers around the country does in fact give you an edge. I
Yeah.
never thought about that before, but
Yeah.
you know, I
I
think that's
don't know that I'm unique in that, but I do know that there are more and more co-packers expanding all the time. It's just such a booming industry. So it helps me because I can do small productions kind of scattered around depending on demand. So,
right.
yeah,
I mean, it's if you grow to the giant extent that you might want to eventually, maybe you'll have to consolidate into one or two places and
yeah,
be like Diageo or Brown Forman, which I know would be a very heartbreaking thing for you to do. But
yeah, yeah. I'm
but
not shy about saying the exit is the goal. I mean, as much fun as this is, it's two full-time jobs right now. So, but it's exciting. It's a lot of
yeah.
fun.
So one of them's got to go first, then one of them's got to go second. Then you can
That's
spend all
right.
your time on the golf course.
Right. That's right. Well, tonight it'll be radiology. So,
Okay, well, good luck, and hopefully there won't be too many serious accidents, but I'm sure there will
yeah,
be. So good luck.
we'll do it. Thank you,
Thanks,
Joe. I really appreciate your
Turner.
time. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Bye
All
bye.
right.